and welcome to yet another episode of the Atomic Blizzards podcast. It's time for our Now Playing series, where we look at the latest movies currently playing in theaters. Today, we'll be discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I'm Dan, the kaiju extraordinaire, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts Miranda, the film fanatic, and Udi, the de facto film expert. Mutant Mayhem was directed by Jeff Rowe and Kyler Spears and stars the voice talents of Micah Abbey, Shimon Brown Jr., Nicholas Cantu, Brady Neon, Ayo Edebiri, and Jackie Chan, among many other talented stars. According to IMDb, the film follows the Turtle Brothers as they work to earn the love of New York while facing down an army of mutants. So, before we get started, I did want to pose a question to you guys. So, do you guys have like any previous experience with the TMNT franchise at all?
I don't have like a ton of experience, I would say, but I definitely have experience. I used to watch. I don't know if it was from the '90s or the 2000s, but I used to watch a cartoon. And then when I was a kid, I think I had watched like the '80s or '90s live action ones. I think they also had a crossover with Power Rangers at one point? Question mark. So I watched that. And
Yeah, I
then
think they did.
yeah, okay. So yeah, I think I watched that, and then I was a big fan of the 2006/2007 animated movie. I don't remember which year, but that one. I didn't see it in theaters, but I eventually saw it sometime around there after it had come out on home video, and I really liked that. And I remember I was a big fan of like the movie tie-in game for that one. And then there was another older like cell shaded TMNT game that I played, and I liked that one as well. So they were kind of in and around things that I liked watching, and I liked watching some of the stuff that they were in or that they um, like movies or shows. So I would say I was like a casual fan. I never really was highly anticipating anything that they were doing or that was made for TMNT, but uh, I would be curious like when I would be aware that there was like something else of theirs coming out. What about you, Miranda?
Yeah, TMNT is something that I've been interested in. I haven't really watched any of the TV shows or any of the movies. But when I was little, at Chuck E. Cheese, they had like this, I think it's called Planko, where you put the ball in and it hits the pegs and it goes down into a bucket. Well, they had one that was TMNT themed and it would play the theme song. So that's like a vivid memory that I have, which I did try to confirm if that game was like a thing, which I'm pretty sure it was, and I'm not making it up, that the Chuck E. Cheese in my hometown had one. But like I have that memory. And then we had like a VHS. It was like pink and it was like a Ninja Turtles like movie special animated thing. Um Other than that, like, I haven't really watched the shows. I do have interest in watching the shows. I've heard The Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is, really good, the newest, Nickelodeon show. Also, like, the character design's pretty cool for that movie and TV show. I was on YouTube one, day, back before the show was, like, a thing, and I think it was just a promotion thing. So I did watch the entire first episode as a YouTube ad, which was very interesting. It's happened to me once and never again, but just a general interest in them.
Wait, you watched an entire episode as an ad?
Yeah, it was an entire episode of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was like the whole first episode, and it hooked me, and I was really disappointed because I had nowhere to watch the show.
Interesting. I've never heard about that. Like just showing an entire episode as an ad, but I guess it hooked you. So I guess it's
Yeah,
a way to like advertise.
yeah. It's never happened again, so I don't know if they're still doing that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So what's your connection to TMNT?
All right, so it's interesting because I'm actually a more recent TMNT fan. I never really grew up with the Turtles as a kid, and growing up though, I did watch a lot of Nostalgia Critic and Angry Video Game Nerd, and they were both huge like Ninja Turtles fans. So that's how I got familiar with the franchise, because like AVGN, like he has his reviews about like the Ninja Turtles game on the NES, and like I like Nostalgia Critic, both Nostalgia Critic and the AVGN like reviewed like the original like trilogy from the 90s. So like I was always familiar with the franchise, but I never really got into them, and I didn't really get into them until recently. So when I started taking a more vested interest in them, and I've seen the entirety of the 1989 show, the original cartoon that kind of like sparked the TMNT phenomenon. So I've seen every episode of that. I'm working through the 2003 show. I do really like the 2003 show. I've seen the all three movies from the 90s, and I haven't, because like Udi mentioned the one from 2007. I have not seen that one yet, but I really would like to. So I got to sit down and watch that one day. But yeah, I've, like I said, recently become a fan, and I like them. You know, like I like the four turtles. I think they're great characters, and I really want to read more of the, because I have read some of the comics. Like I read the original Mirage comics, a few of them. I haven't read the entire run, but I have read a few of those comics. And then IDW like completely rebooted the comics in like 2013, and I started reading some of those, and I really liked what IDW came up with, and I want to get back to reading more of those, because from the small handful of issues that I've read, it's really good. So I want to get back more into that. But yeah, no, I'm kind of a newcomer to the Turtles franchise. All right. Well, let's go into our first impressions. What were your first impressions of TMNT Mutant Mayhem? We'll start with you, Miranda.
I really liked it. It was fun. I didn't really have any expectations going into this movie. I knew it was coming out and that we were covering it, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll give it a watch. In general, I think it was very well done. I like the style of it. I was a bit worried that it would be too much, but I think the scribbleness of the style like works really well. It's a lot more like grungy and like dirty and like messy. And these are like just it's really hard to describe the art style without seeing it, but there's a lot of scribbles around everything. There's a lot of like texture marks. Anything that glows has a haze around it, which as a person with astigmatism, I'm like, ah, that's just my life. It's cool to see in the movie, but it's not very cool in real life. I really liked the music. I listened to the soundtrack like 3 times today when I was at work because it's just very good, like hype-ish, fast-paced, well-layered, interesting music.
Yeah, great soundtrack.
Yeah, it reminded me of like John Wick and Spider-Verse and like those types of films. I also thought all of the turtles acted and seemed like real teenagers, which is refreshing to see them that way because it's sometimes it just feels like adults being serious and playing these characters. They don't really get to be kids. And I think that comes in with the voice cast because they are teenagers. So they're teenagers being teenagers. And I really, really liked the match cut fighting scene where it like pans around and like match cuts to every turtle and they get their moment and it goes to like the next like goon they're fighting. It's to a specific song, but I don't remember what song it is at the moment. But I thought that was really cool.
All right. Yeah, no, that's we'll talk about more about that scene later, but that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. I love that scene. All right, on to you then, Udi. What were your first impressions of Mutant Mayhem?
I also really liked it. I was looking forward to it. As soon as I saw the first trailer, I was cautiously optimistic. I was like, okay, all right, this feels a little Spider-Verse E in like its art style and in kind of like its execution. But I was like, that's not a bad thing. Though I'll take that over like a pretty like more of like the Pixar version of like an animated movie, or what we've come to know as like a Pixar version of an animated movie. So I was looking forward to it. And like Miranda said, like the having like a teenage cast really made it feel special too, where I was like, okay, you know what? I appreciate it. I like kind of similar to like how with like Tom Holland Spider-Man, we finally got a cast of teenagers in high school for Spider-Man as opposed to like 30-year-old adults pretending to be like teenagers. I appreciated that we got actual teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that was a nice touch, and then I think they all did a really good job. I don't know any, like I didn't know any of them from anything else, so it's possible like I've seen something else with them, but like they're young, so I probably haven't. But they did a really good job. I think they got kids that were ready to put out their best work, and I'm excited to see what they do in hopeful potential sequels. But yeah, also like it coming from Seth Rogen and I think his creative partner. Um, it's been cool to see like other projects that they've been involved with in like recent years. So I was looking forward to that as well. I was like, oh, okay. If they have a hand in this, then I'm intrigued to see what they'll do with it. But yeah, I think just to keep things simple, I really liked it. I thought like basically everything that Miranda liked, I liked as well. Like the cinematography, the score, the performances, the story itself. Well, it was like a simple but nice and well executed story. I liked the scale of the threat in the movie and everything like that. So yeah, I really liked it.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a feeling I'm gonna be sharing the same sentiments as you guys when I go into my thoughts. Speaking of which, I guess I'll share my thoughts. So, what did I think of TMNT Mutant Mayhem? Well, I liked it. Once again, yeah, this is a great movie. So when Mutant Mayhem was like first revealed, I think it was first revealed like last year. I wasn't sure like once again because I think Udi, you had said you weren't sure what to think. I as well wasn't sure what to think because like Seth Rogen is producing. It's like, oh, okay, like is Seth Rogen gonna be like voicing one of the turtles? I kind of hope not because I think I don't know. I just don't think Seth Rogen's voice would match like any of the turtles that well. Like maybe Mike, maybe you can make an argument about maybe he could do Michelangelo, but that's no, I don't know. But like, it was interesting. So like concept art of this movie, I remember when the concept art was first revealed, and I was really digging some of the designs, but I didn't really like Donatello's design because I know that he's supposed to be like the nerdy one, but they like went all out in trying to make him the nerdy one because they give him like these big glasses and they give him like a buck tooth. It's like that's just sticking out of his mouth. It's like, come on, like does now it looks better in the final product than it did in the concept art, but yeah, I didn't know how to feel about the movie after seeing and then especially because like I was on Reddit one time and there was like a leaked storyboard scene where the turtles are like in a school, and that scene actually ends up being in the movie, but like they're in a school with April, and like I remember like everybody was thinking, oh no, this is going to be about the turtles going to high school, and like I was thinking that too, and I was like, no, I don't. The turtles going to high school, I don't like that idea. Now thankfully for the most part that is not what we got, but still like I didn't really have high hopes going into this movie based off of all that I've seen. But then once the trailer came out, my perspective completely shifted. Like we saw that amazing art style, the very Spider-Verse inspired art style. Like we, saw kind of like the relationship that all four turtles were gonna have just off that trailer. They're act like you guys have saying they were actually acting like teenagers, acting like kids. It's like, all right, this looks great. Actually, this looks really good. Now I'm excited for it, and yeah, it paid off. No, Mutant Mayhem is a great movie, great animation, great voice acting. The story's pretty good. The writing is pretty good for the most part, and I like all the different like character designs and whatnot. Lots of the fight scenes were pretty good. Like once again, that one fight scene that Miranda mentioned, where they're going after like the different gangs, and I think the song is called the Hot Diggity or something like that. I'd have to double check on that, but yeah, no, that scene is fantastic. And then like you got the big scene at the end, the big fight scene at the end too. That's a lot of fun, and a great soundtrack. Yeah, no, this movie was great. All right, it's time to dive a little deeper into Mutant Mayhem. We are entering spoiler territory here, folks. If you have not seen Mutant Mayhem yet and do not wish to be spoiled, turn back now and come back after you've seen the film. This is your one and only warning. All right, so I have like a list of possible things that we could talk about. Let's hit up that animation. Like, I know you guys have already talked about the animation a little bit in your first impressions, but how did you really feel about the animation?
I really liked it. um, it we kind of talked about this before in the Across the Spider-Verse review that we did, but um, it was funny to me because this movie feels kind of inspired by the Spider-Verse art style, just done slightly differently. Like I remember noticing that it was more like a painting, like a moving painting, as opposed to being like a comic book come to life. When like we first started watching trailers for this movie, and then Across the Spider-Verse came out, and then they did the whole painting thing, like animated style, and I was like, oh no, they just like. I mean, it's not that was the only thing that this movie had to offer or anything, but I was like, oh no, they totally like took the wind out of this movie's sails because it's like Spider-Verse just came out and did this new art style, and they freaking crushed it. And now this movie is gonna come out and be like, oh well, we also have a painting like style, and it's pretty cool, but I still think that it stood out on its own. And while there's definitely like some scenes towards the end, especially that I noticed where I was like, this looks a little flat and a little like slightly unfinished, in my opinion at least. I still thought that overall it was like a very pretty and fun looking movie. So I really liked it. I would say it's definitely, and maybe it's just because it's like it's different than a normal animated movie that we've seen in like I don't know, like the last decade or more, like 15 years maybe. I don't know. But I would say from an animation standpoint, probably one of my, at least at bare minimum, probably like top five favorite animated movies, like from its art style at least, from like its animation style. So
What about you, Miranda?
I really liked the animation. Like I said earlier, I thought it would be a bit difficult to adjust to, but it's very easy to adjust to. And personally, I enjoy this movie a lot more than Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I just like this movie a lot more, and I like the style uh a bit more too. I know every single animated movie is getting compared to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, like those really like the first one really did start a chain reaction um of like more stylized animation. Um but I don't know, there's something about the style that's just so different. Like Spider-Verse is very nice, it's very good, they did fantastic stuff, but it just feels clean. Where this feels like you're just throwing paint at the wall and somehow it's, like, working. It feels like more like an independent comic, which makes sense because Ninja Turtles started out as an independent comic,
Exactly. Yeah, that's a
and
good observation.
yeah, so, like, I like that they kinda went with that, like, we're not the stereotypical, everyone's faces, like especially humans, aren't more photorealistic, like in like Disney or like um with Spider-Man. Like there's still tons of variation and stuff in those ones, but this one it's like, oh, these are sharper lines. We're gonna like make it kind of like grungy. And I really liked that they went with this style because like you've seen like clean Ninja Turtle like 3D animation because they have the shows, seen like the the flat 2D animation style. So I'm glad that they tried something different and it worked. At least it worked for me. Um cuz it's just very detailed. And there's like certain compositions like at the beginning they do the camera like flies around cuz you're like a fly and they do like some panning like sweeping shots of this like hideout place and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the depth in this movie is like amazing." Like I don't know why a scene of a hallway with a light with a camera swooping was the moment that I was like, there is some very good like depth in this movie. And that comes from the 3D, so putting the 2D elements on top like just enhances all of that. Same thing with like Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse and stuff. They take that like 3D and add 2D on it too. And it's a very good representation of a comic book, especially a Spider-Man comic book. So it's nice to see another comic being represented in this style. So like maybe one day we could have like a whole series of animation films that represent every like kind of art style that you see in comic books ranging from independent to Marvel, DC and variations in between.
That would be really cool. I'm 100% down for that. But yeah, to just kind of go off of what you guys have said, like the animation in this is great. Like obviously, like we've mentioned a million times and we will continue probably mentioning a million times from now, it's very Spider-Verse inspired. But Spider-Verse was a game changer. It revolutionized the industry. So it makes sense to draw those comparisons. But yeah, what Ninja Turtles did is interesting with its art style because, like you guys were saying, it kind of looks like a comic book, and like not everything is like you were kind of saying, Miranda. Not everything is drawn perfectly. Like some of the humans in this movie look just straight up weird, and it's kind of funny because like the common theme in Mutant Mayhem is that the turtles want to be accepted by New York. They want to go out and they just want to live like normal teenage lives. Like they want to go to high school. They want to get girlfriends. They want to watch movies and go out and hang out, but they can't because they're freakish mutant green turtles. And if they were to go out in public, people would freak out, as we see kind of like in the beginning of or not the beginning of the film, but like there's a scene where Splinter is telling the turtles about like how they grew up, and I guess he took them out onto the surface world, well, not the surface world, but he took them out onto the streets of New York at one point, and like everybody freaked out. So yeah, if you go out in public looking the way that they do, people are going to freak out, so they can't. But some of the humans though look just as ugly, if not uglier, than the turtles. Like there are people with like really weird faces, and there's like there's the scene where these guys, they're looking at the turtles and they're talking about how they look like Shrek. Well, the guys that are saying that look more like Shrek than the turtles do. So it's like, I don't know, like I get that it's just part of the art style and like that was the look that they're going for, but it's kind of funny to see all of these people talk about how like freakishly weird the turtles look when the humans look just as freakishly weird, if not weirder. So I did find that interesting about the art style. But another thing I wanted to say about the art styles, there's a YouTube channel out there that I really enjoy. It's called Double Toasted. They do like a lot of movie reviews and whatnot. And the host of the show, his name's Corey Coleman. I think he said that the Mutant Mayhem art style is kind of like if you took a 2D drawing and just like animated just a 2D drawing, like just made it 3D. Like you're taking a 2D drawing and you're making it 3D, and he kind of has a point because yeah, like not every there's slight imperfections in some of the character designs and the art style that kind of gives it more of like a hand drawn feel. And I do like some of the effects. Like there's certain like lighting effects that look, just straight out of like a hand drawn comical panel or something like that. And yeah, no, I the animation's great. All right, so to shift on to topics, we already kind of talked about this before, but I wanted to talk about like the relationship between the all four of the Turtle brothers. I love the way that these characters are written in this movie because you believe that they grew up together. They actually feel like a family. They feel like siblings, Like they're always like cracking jokes at each other, making fun of each other. They get in their fights and it's very believable the way that they wrote these characters cuz yeah, like I just said, it feels like they really did grow up with each other and I don't know if other Ninja Turtles adaptations have been successful at doing that. Because, like I said, I watched like all of the '87 show, or I was it the I watched a lot of the '80s show. I've seen like every episode, and there's, so many episodes blurred together. So like I can't say if like maybe the '80s show had moments like that, but I feel like it didn't really. And like the 2003 show, I haven't seen all of, so I can't really say. But it's cool that this movie was able to nail that aspect down because I don't feel like a lot of adaptations of the Ninja Turtles have been able to nail that aspect.
They really focused on the interpersonal connections of the four of them because they literally do act like siblings. Like you were saying, they feel like siblings. Again, I don't have the other movies other than the Michael Bay ones. I think that's who made them. Which
Well,
those movies
he
are
produced them.
okay.
He didn't direct them.
Well, either way, those movies are quite strange. But they did a good job of establishing that. And I think that comes from again the cast being younger and them getting to sit in the same room and just riff off of each other and be friends and be siblings. And they were able to translate that into the movie, which is always cool when movies can do that, when people working on them can take these people who have a real life connection and translate that into the story.
Agreed. Yeah, I think one thing that they did so well was just really, like you guys said, making him feel like a family, and every time that they had like little quips or they said like little things to each other, it felt real. It felt believable. It felt like they were actual siblings, like kind of riffing off each other or making fun of each other or referencing things that they knew of because like it happened in their history, like things like that. Like it just felt very natural, and I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. They just did a really good job being able to convey that for sure. All right. So obviously, because of the movie's namesake, it's called Mutant Mayhem. So there are a ton of different like mutants in this movie. The main, I guess you could say, yeah, the main bad guy mutant is called Superfly. He's voiced by Ice Cube, and I thought Superfly was really cool. I love the way that he's introduced when he's just, I think he's like walking up to the van, and then like he opens the door, and like the thugs are like, "Oh my god, who's that?" And then you just see his mouth, and you hear him say, "I'm Superfly." Just like the way he says it, it's just like really cool. So, what did you guys think of Superfly? Do you think he was a pretty good villain, or was he kind of eh? Like, how are you feeling?
I liked him. I honestly don't remember if I knew him from, like, if I remember seeing him in anything specifically. Like myself, obviously. That's what I mean. Um, like I don't remember if I saw him in a movie or a show before. that I remember, but I liked him. I thought he was an interesting kind of he was an interesting character overall, but also just like an interesting antagonist. I can't think of the last time, and maybe like if you just look at it like on paper, like who the character is, we've seen that character in plenty of other things, especially like recently. But like the performance that we were given, I can't think of the last time that um, we got like an antagonist, like a main antagonist like this. Like he just had so much character, and like little things that he said were just kind of funny, and yeah, I don't know. I liked the approach that they took with this character, and how they just kind of let him be free, and like obviously even though he was wrong, like you can understand the motivations behind why he was doing what he was doing, why he felt the way he felt. And I also liked how that played into Splinter's growth over the course of the movie, like seeing himself in the antagonist and realizing like, maybe I was wrong in my approach to how I was raising my boys, and maybe there's a lesson for me to learn here, not just them, but like for me myself to learn and become a better father for them, and stuff like that. So I liked him. I thought he was really fun, and um especially after like having Superfly be the main antagonist for this one, I'm very intrigued to see what the next one has for a villain. I don't know if I don't want to say it because I don't know if we have a
Oh yeah,
specific discussion
we'll
planned
talk
that,
about
but
that.
okay.
There's a certain cheese grater that got teased during the mid-credit scene, so
Cheese grater.
Cheese
yeah.
grater. Speaking of him, a few years ago I had this idea to draw a drawing of him shredding on a skateboard while shredding papers with a skateboard designed with shredded cheese, like a shredded cheese packet on it. Um, I found the photo very funny. I did eventually paint it, but if you have
Awesome.
any other concepts to add to that involving shredding, let me know because I'm looking to add stuff to it.
I will keep that in mind. What did you think of Superfly, Miranda?
I thought Superfly was pretty Superfly, I guess. Did I don't
Nice.
yeah. um no, he was very interesting. I wasn't really sure who the villain was going to be for this movie, but like having him be the villain like makes a lot of sense cuz then it like explains where all the other mutants came from and where the turtles are from and like how that affects like them in their sewer and how the other mutants are like outcast because like New York, although New York probably sees a lot of crazy things, so I don't think they would be against mutant turtles and such, but I guess they're not by the end of the film. But I think that was a good tie-in for the story. And like he like I get why he wants to destroy humanity and stuff. Um, because they did kill his dad and stuff, and he had to raise all of his siblings by himself. Um, but like by doing that, he turns into a giant kaiju, which I was not expecting, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I see what we're doing here. This is great. I like this."
Yeah, he turns into this like eldritch horror, like horse-infused kaiju at the end. It's insane.
Yes, there's a giraffe that like blinks when it's like close up, and he blinks, and I was like, "Oh, I do not like that." Um, whales, an octopus, a bunch of horses. It's so strange and ridiculous that it's like, of course this is where Ninja Turtles goes because they can because they don't have to play by like the standard rules because there are mutants in this universe. I do like the part that Superfly brings them to like the bowling place and the arcade and they're like playing games and eating pizza and that type of stuff. I did
Yeah, they're
like
just
that
hanging
part.
out. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of sympathize a little with Superfly because yeah, like people hate mutants, and he just wants to be able to live without being threatened, because people see him, they want to like kill him right away. I think he mentions at one point, like the first time he ever saw a human, like the human tried to kill him, so like he ended up just killing the human. I think that was it, but I don't know. But yeah, so I did kind of sympathize with him a little, and it was interesting to see like how the turtles were gonna react to that, because in a way, Superfly's ideals kind of matched the turtles. Like obviously the turtles don't want to hurt people, but they don't want to, they still want to be accepted, and in some weird way Superfly also wants to be accepted, but he literally just wants to turn everyone into mutants. He thinks that's the only path, so obviously their paths kind of differ there. But yeah, I did like Superfly. I thought he was great. And so were a bunch of the other mutants. There's all kinds of like different like crazy mutants. You got like Bebop and Rocksteady, famous from the 80s show. Also voiced by John Cena and Seth Rogen. I can't believe I couldn't remember his name for a sec. But Seth Rogen, I think, voices Bebop, and John Cena voices Rocksteady, so that was fun. Although it was interesting because like near the end of the movie, because Bebop and Rocksteady have almost always, at least as far as I know, because once again, I haven't seen everything Ninja Turtle related, but Bebop and Rocksteady have traditionally always been portrayed as villains, and that's how they kind of were in this movie. But then near the end, they kind of turned good. So it's interesting to see. I'm curious where that's going to end up. Like, are Bebop and Rocksteady going to stay good, or are they going to like turn villainous again later down the road? So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. My favorite mutant was Mondo Gecko, voiced by Paul Rudd. He was great. I
Yes.
I loved every scene that he was in. He also had like a whole bunch of other like there. I think there was like Leatherface, who was a very like common Ninja Turtles villain, like big alligator, just Australian alligator, I think. And then you had like Ray Fillet, who was voiced by Post Malone. I did not know that when I went to go see this movie, so that was kind of fun to learn that afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, and then the joke of him, like, singing and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that makes total sense now."
Yeah.
The connective tissue between Spider-Verse and this movie grows further.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because what was it? Sunflower, that song for the first Spider-Verse movie. It was done by
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post Malone. Yeah.
Plus, he had a voice cameo. You know that one line
Oh,
where
did
it
he?
goes, "Is it? I think it's a Banksy." That's Post Malone.
Oh, that's Post Malone.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It makes sense though, because Ninja Turtles is a take on superheroes and stuff, and Spider-Man, so it's all interconnected, I
Well,
guess.
very inspired by Daredevil, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think the creators of TMNT wanted to, like, work on comics, and, like, they really looked up to Jack Kirby and stuff like
Yeah.
that, so
So yeah, you got that. So I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys have a favorite mutant? Because obviously, like I said, I already said mine was Mondo Gecko. Udi, it sounds like you're a big Mondo Gecko fan as well, huh?
Yes, I loved Mongo Gecko. He's my favorite. It was funny because I I don't know. Like I said, I'm a very casual TMNT fan. Like growing up as a kid, like I liked TMNT, but it wasn't something that like it wasn't like a superhero thing where like I always loved superheroes or it wasn't like this or that sort of thing. Like it was just like a thing that like, oh cool, new TMNT thing, yeah, I'll watch it. But like so there's a lot of characters like I knew of like Rocksteady and Bebop, but like I don't remember seeing a lot of media with them in it, at least like distinctly. So like whenever they were introduced, I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued to see what they do with these characters. But then like I don't really have a lot of memories with them being in things. So like I remember when the second Michael Bay produced movie was going to come out. I was like, oh, they're going to be in that movie. Okay, cool. And then I never went to go see that movie. So and I still haven't watched it. So I don't know how they're in that movie, but
I forgot they were in that movie.
yeah, yeah. But But yeah, so like Mondo Gecko, I don't remember ever seeing him in anything, and maybe his design is different. I don't know, but like,
He was in the
uh,
80s show.
gotcha, okay. But yeah, so like I didn't know anything about him, so I like I kind of I mean I always avoid trailers and stuff as much as I can. But before the movie came out, I watched a snippet somewhere online of like Mondo Gecko. I'm like, interesting, all right. And then I was like, wait, that's Paul Rudd? What? I'm like, I guess it makes sense. Like he's friends with Seth Rogen, and I was like, okay, all right, that makes sense. But like the whole movie, I just like every time he said something, I was like, I can't. I love this so much. What the heck? And then I like the little gag in the climactic fight where his like tail falls off and like, oh no, what happened to him? And then he's just like skateboarding in the background, like ah. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that was good.
And then I
I,
also
d-
like, oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I didn't realize it was Paul Rudd at first. I didn't know that until the credits rolled.
Your
I thought it
boy,
was hmm?
your boy, your favorite guy,
Yeah.
your Ant-Man.
Yeah. Bobby Newport from Parks and Rec. Um but yeah, I didn't know it was him. I thought it was um the guy who plays Jake Peralta on Brooklyn Nine-Nine for a moment. But um yeah, I had no idea it was Paul Rudd. Like I know he could do comedy and stuff and not just Ant-Man, but it was surreal. Like it was really weird.
Yeah. I liked the voice that he did. Like I don't know again if that's like a traditional Mondo Gecko voice, but I really liked the the voice he settled on for this performance.
Yeah, I agree.
I also really like the one scene where the mutants realize like the turtles aren't like trying to like kill them or something, and they're like, wait, so like you'd let us live with you, bro? And they're like, yeah, of course, bro. And then they're like, oh my god, bro, no way, bro. And then I thought that scene was funny.
Yeah.
Um, I don't remember if you mentioned him or not, but looking at the credits, I just want to mention Hannibal Buress was Genghis Frog. So I was like, yay, Hannibal
Oh
Buress! I love
yeah,
Hannibal Buress.
Genghis Frog. I kind of forgot about him.
For those that don't know who Hannibal Buress is, he's done a number of different things, but like I would say the most mainstream role he's ever had was playing the PE coach in the Spider-Man MCU movies. So he's that guy.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. Yeah, what about you, Miranda? Who's your favorite?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite mutant, Miranda?
Uh the gecko was cool. That got like the Cowabunga dude like vibes into the movie. Um since that was like a thing that at least from my limited knowledge is something the turtles are always like the surfer like
Yeah,
type.
Cowabunga. Or if you're watching the 2012 show, it's Booyah Kasha, whatever that
Oh,
means.
okay. I really liked the bat mutant, mainly because um she's voiced by the person who plays Naja in What We Do in the Shadows. So the fact that a person who plays a vampire in a different show is voicing a bat was like hilarious to me. I don't know why, it just was. Um and then I like that they included Rocksteady and Bebop in there. And then I really liked this take of Splinter. He was very good too.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Splinter. I, before going into this movie, I wasn't sure how I was feeling about Splinter because I was not vibing with his design. I didn't like how, like, because when we see him when he's like younger and like he has this like weird like kind of what's the word? Um, where it's business in the front, party in the back. What's that called
A
again? That
mullet?
hairstyle? A mullet. Yeah, I don't know. Why I couldn't think of the name. But yeah, he had like a weird mullet going on. I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. And then he like
But
just
it's
looks.
like the 80s, you
It is the
know? He
'80s.
got he's
Yeah,
gotta have
yeah.
a mullet. Like it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. But then like I don't know, they gave him like this like very like old man like look when the turtles are older and they got like he has like little gray like eyebrows. I just really didn't like his design, but I kind of warmed up to it once I started getting, once I started watching the movie. I did kind of warm up to it a bit, but it's probably not my favorite Splinter design, but eh, not really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. There's a scene when he like goes to rescue the boys from the milking machine. That's a weird sentence to say. But
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
um, but he goes to rescue them and he's like fighting all of these goons. And I don't know why this is the moment, but I was sitting in the theater and I became hyper aware what was going on. And I was like, that is a man-sized rat doing kung fu ninja moves against goons to save his turtle sons who are attached to a blood milking machine. And I just started laughing so much. Luckily, I wasn't sitting by anyone because the theater was kind of empty. But like, I don't know. It broke me.
You're just now realizing just how weird of a franchise TMNT is.
Yeah. And it's always been weird. So
Yeah, I mean the concept alone, like four turtles that do ninjutsu, like what the hell? What is this? They eat pizza? Like what is this?
They
Though
eat
I don't
pizza at the
know.
skateboard.
Yeah, they eat pizza, they skate. I was gonna say I have a feel. I don't know if like eating pizza was a thing that was established in the original comic run. I have a feeling that the '80s show came up with that. Kind of like how with Superman, like Superman couldn't fly at first; he could only jump really high. But it wasn't until the radio show that established that he could fly, and like he works at the Daily Planet and whatnot. So I wonder if like the '80s show like had a lot of those. Like I wonder if the '80s show was responsible for establishing a lot of the more common tropes that the TMNT franchise has nowadays.
I think it is. I watched the Toys That Made Us documentary on TMNT, and they were talking about how like original run of TMNT is like dark and gritty and murdery because they're ninjas and out for revenge or something like that. Whereas like when they went to go make the toys, they had to make a kid appropriate TV show, so they like bumped the comedy and gave each turtle a different color like face mask so they're distinguishable. And like we're like, okay, they're teenagers. What do teenagers like? Oh, they like pizza and skateboarding, I guess. So I think that's like where it came from.
Yeah, I figured so. Yeah, you mentioned like the original comic being really dark. It's true. Like issue 1 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like super dark. It's like they're like killing people in there, and then it's like Jesus, man, like what is this? All right, so I wanted to shift into like, did you guys have any like favorite scenes or scenes that just really stuck out to you in the movie? I've already mentioned that I love the scene. Without a doubt, my favorite scene in the entire movie is the cut. Is well, I think the name of the song is Yo Diggity or Hot Diggity. I can't remember the exact name of the song, but yeah, that song's playing in the background, and then it just cuts to the turtles like fighting the different gangs. Such a great scene. I love that scene so much. Did you guys have any scenes that stuck out to you like that?
I definitely say that that was probably one of my favorite scenes as well. That was just really, really good. But another one would be the one that Miranda just referenced, the one with Splinter fighting all the goons in the milking lab.
Yeah.
Um, and I really like this take on Splinter in the movie. So, like that scene was really nice. Like him beating up all the goons, getting like a moment to shine, and showing off his moves, even though he's an old rat. But I also liked his scene at the end, like when he realizes, like I said, when I mentioned earlier, like the scene where he realizes like how much he's similar to like Superfly, and how he like wants to be different, and like he acknowledges that, and he's like there to support his boys. Like I thought that was very very sweet, and I liked that a lot. And even though it was odd, I don't know if this has in the history in shows or in the comics or anything like that, but I thought his brief moments with the cockroach were kind of funny, even though they're a little weird.
I forgot about that. Yeah, doesn't he like
Like
doesn't
falls
he
in love
like
with like
falls in love with one of the mutants? Yeah, it's like the cockroach mutant. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I don't think I could ever forget about that.
Yeah.
It was odd, but it was funny.
Definitely strange.
Yeah.
But it works for the movie.
It
Like
it does, yeah. I did want to say really quick that I did feel like Splinter had some really nice moments. Like there's a scene near the beginning of the movie where I think he grounds the turtles for sneaking out after he told them not to sneak out, and like the turtles like all go off to their rooms, and he has like kind of a moment to himself that's like pretty emotional where he's like sad because like I think the impression is that he wants the boys to like go out and have fun, but like he's afraid for them, so he can't have them leave, and he has like this kind of it's like sad emotional moment to himself. Like that was a really nice scene. I thought that was nice. But yeah, I mean, did you have any like favorite scenes or scenes that really stuck out to you, Miranda?
Yeah, the big fighting match cut scene was like fantastic. Um, the scene where like we haven't talked about April at all yet. We should totally talk about her.
Oh
But
yeah.
the scene when they're coming home from hanging out with April and Splinter like set up a whole like party. He's like, "Well, you guys want to go to the human world. I brought the human world to you." And then there's just three realistic cardboard cutouts of the three Chris's.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, "Okay, I'm gonna accept this." Because earlier they do like sneak out to go see Ferris Bueller at the outdoor, like they were playing a movie in a park. So like they established that like they did that animation thing where like in Wally, where they have like real people in the animation, and it's just that's just how it is. But like I was not expecting three cardboard cutouts of the three Chris's, but
Yeah,
I'd
I was
like
not either.
yeah, I like that he was like, okay, I know you guys want to be in the human world. The human world is scary. Am scared that you guys will get hurt or mistreated. So he like tried to make a compromise and was like, "Okay, we're going to bring it to you. We're going to have it down here. I'm going to be your pizza server. You can only order pizza because that's all we have." Like I like that like compromise. Unfortunately, the turtles were like, "Ah, yeah, we got errands to go. We got to go back." So they don't really like participate in it. But I liked that part.
Yeah, like that's just one thing is you can tell like Splinter really is trying his best to be like the best quote unquote dad that he can be for his boys. And that's really, you think about it, it's really kind of sweet.
And I like that when April comes to him, he's like, "Okay, yes, let's go save them. You're friends with them?" And she's like, there's that like connection there. And he doesn't like get mad or dismiss her. She like comes along to help get the boys back. So
Yeah, and you've already mentioned it. Speaking of April, what did you guys think of this interpretation of April O'Neil? Um, I liked April. I thought she was a great character. I thought she was going to be a teacher at the school, but they actually make her a student, so that was kind of cool. And like, yeah, I thought she was a great character. She had her moments, and I like how they kind of like combine different elements of like the character of April because like in the comics she was more of like a scientist who worked in Baxter Stockman's lab. But then for the 80s show, like the 80s show just took so many creative liberties from the comics. Like the 80s show just took the concept and just did their own thing. Like with April, they just like, all right, we're just gonna make her a reporter. So that's what she is in the 80s show. And then like they whitewashed Baxter Stockman. Like Baxter Stockman is black in the comics, but then for the 80s show they made him white, and they also I think he turns into Superfly in that show. So that's interesting. But yeah, so the 80s show just took so many like different creative liberties, and then it was interesting to see them like kind of combine all the different characterizations of April O'Neil that we've seen. Like we have her reporter side from like the 80s show. We have kind of like I don't know, does she ever I can't really remember. Does she ever have like does it seem like she's interested in like science and whatnot and smart in that field at all? I don't really remember. Is she sciencey at all?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um
I kind of don't remember, but
Yeah, the only thing I remember is just that like she was really interested in being a reporter.
Yeah, so maybe they took more inspiration than just from the reporter like 80s aspect of that character then. But I know for like the 2012 like reboot that was like 3D animated, April O'Neil is a kid, and like she's like around the same age as the turtles in that show, where traditionally she's like supposed to be an adult. So like I did kind of I think I like April more when she is the same age as the turtles instead of being like much older than them, because like I feel like she fits in with the group better.
Yeah, that makes sense. She was roughly around the same age as the turtles in this movie, right? Because like they were going to school together at the end.
Yeah, yeah, she's around like the same age, I think.
Okay. Because yeah,
Yeah, because
like
she's
oh, what were you gonna say?
concerned about prom. Like she's trying to get the story about the turtles so she could save prom because
Yeah.
she embarrassed herself when she had to do the morning announcements.
She barfed all over the place. It was really nasty, but it was also really
Yeah.
funny because it's animated, so it's not as gross.
Yeah, which they did bring back, and I was like, "Yep, okay."
But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that yeah they brought it back and then she's like giving like the big serious um like rundown on what's happening in the city and then she just pukes on live TV. Like way worse than just doing it like at school on a crazy bigger scale, but hey, at least it worked
She's a
out.
trooper, man. She kept going after that, so she's a trooper.
We need more people who would be able to puke on live TV and then keep going after not puking, but like going with they're talking about what they were going to talk about.
Please don't puke on live TV.
Please
It's
don't puke
very,
on.
very nasty.
Have them turn the camera and then you can keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought she was fun. Like April is one of those characters. Like I remember seeing her a lot in different things that I like watched her played for like TMNT related things, but I never like she and Casey Jones were both characters. I'm like, okay, cool, but they always just kind of felt like add-ons. It never really felt, at least to me. Like obviously, again, I'm a very casual fan. Anything I'm saying does not really hold much weight. I'm not like, just to be clear, but like they always felt like addition, like kind of like supplementary characters, and so like whenever there was like a plot line with them, I'm like, okay, like you guys are cool, but I don't care as much, but that's fine. But like here, I liked this interpretation of the character. I thought she was fun, and I think that she had good rapport with the turtles, and I'm intrigued to see what else they do with her. And also, if they bring in Casey Jones, I'm intrigued to see what they do with that.
Oh yeah, I hope they bring in Casey Jones as well, because like both April and Casey Jones are like two of the more bigger supporting characters throughout like the TMNT franchise. So I would think you'd have to bring in Casey Jones at one point.
What if April at the beginning of the next movie is doing like a special like underground like undercover reporting thing, and then they introduce Casey Jones as an undercover reporter and then they kill him.
Was that a Batman v
It was.
Superman yeah.
I like that April is the same age as the turtles and that she is like an inspire is trying to work towards the goal of being a reporter. Um that way like she can still like do that reporting aspect of her character that has been developed, but then at the same time she can just be a teenager and hang out with the other teenagers and just do teenage things.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
why
like
I just want to say real quick, that's why I like it when they make her closer in age to the turtles, because it just fits better with the group, because like you said, she gets to hang out with them and do like things that other teenagers would normally do with them.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll bring in Casey Jones at some point, and hopefully he's around the same age as the rest of them too. I don't know much about him other than he like plays hockey. Um so I'm sure they'll bring him in later. I think they have a good dynamic, April and the Turtles. I think they really established a well thought out like dynamic between them. And I like the characterization of April because um like she's gone through several variations, so it fits with the story as well. Like it would be really weird if she was less like a super sciencey like person without like that reporting aspect, because then we wouldn't get like her on TV saying like being a reporter telling everyone what is going on, saying the mutants are like good guys with the exception of Superfly, you know, and they're here to help. But I didn't know she was like a scientist type person.
Yeah, in the original comic, she's working with Baxter Stockman in his lab, and then if you watch the 2003 show or cartoon, which is actually heavily based off the original Mirage Comics run, like she's like that in that show as well. Oh yeah, because I wanted to, because we were talking about how they could possibly introduce Casey Jones. I mean, it's set up perfectly. Like just have him be on the hockey team at school, and like maybe he's one of April's friends.
I mean, I think this movie is getting a TV show on Paramount Plus
It
that will tie
is.
into the sequel. So I'm sure they'll like work out all those details whenever it is the time to do that, cuz there's stuff going on right now. So I
Yeah.
don't even know if they're able to work on it.
Well, hopefully they will in due time. But yeah, the thing about Casey Jones though is like, because you're saying you don't know a lot about him, he's pretty much just a vigilante. Like he fights crime. Like that's why he wears the hockey mask and he has the hockey stick. Those are his like, that's his Batman cowl, and his hockey stick is his batarang. So he just goes around and he fights crime. So like, if you're gonna do Casey Jones and you're gonna make him a teenager around the same age as April and the Turtles, like you're gonna have to like it'll be interesting to see what the writers come up with to like explain why this teenage boy in like high school is going around and fighting crimes. So that will be interesting. But all right. So was there any aspects of the movie that you guys didn't particularly like at all? Like I guess I'll start us off by saying my biggest gripe were the constant pop culture references. This movie is full of pop culture references, and I understand why, you know, because they're teenagers. They've watched like probably a lot of TV and whatnot, and like they're gonna make, you know, teenagers I would think are gonna make just naturally make a lot of pop culture references. And most of the pop culture references were fine, but some of them just felt very forced. Like I'm thinking of this one scene where I think Donnie is driving the turtle van, and so one of the turtles makes a joke. It's like, "Oh, Donnie, you're a much better driver than we thought you were." And then Donnie goes, "Yeah, you know, I've learned from playing a lot of like Forza Horizon 4 or Forza Horizon 5 or whatever." And it's like that just it just felt forced because the joke could have just been, "Wow, Donnie, you're a much better driver than I thought you were," and he could have been, "Yeah, I saw those racing games." Like, does he have to name drop Forza Horizon 5? And then like, there's another like that.
Yes.
I guess. And well, you're biased, Judy. You're a big Forza fan, so. And then like there's another like reference where they're like talking about how it's like literally Michelangelo goes, "It's like the Hulk in Avengers Endgame," where like he has to get accepted. It's like, okay, that just like some of them just felt really forced, and like I don't know, I just was not a fan of the constant pop culture references.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say if I had any complaint, because I really don't feel like I had any, it would be, I guess it would be that, but I mean, yeah, even though I'm a big fan of Forza Horizon, that part did stick out like kind of like a sore thumb. I was like it didn't bother me that much. It just felt weirdly like forced. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. All right, that's fine. But yeah, I just remember like hearing it and be like, that's a choice to name drop that specifically, but like it took me out of the movie for a second. I was like, oh, I like that. Interesting. Okay, but why are we talking about it? Okay, all right. But yeah, that's probably the only complaint I have. What about you, Miranda?
The like pop culture references didn't really bug me or anything. I don't know that game, so it didn't like stand out to me. I was like, oh, racing game. I mean, he could have said he learned how to race on the Cars 2 GameCube racing game, you know.
Now that would be a reference.
Yeah, yeah. But like they're teenagers, they're gonna reference stuff. The Affinity War or Endgame one did slightly annoy me, but that's because I have, let's say, feelings towards Endgame.
Miranda has very unpopular opinions about Endgame.
Yeah. Um, so, like, I was like, "Oh, okay." But, like, I don't know, I just accepted it. It was like, they're teenagers, they're on TikTok. They literally have TikTok, like, I it didn't bug me that much. But speaking of, like, TikTok and the interface, they just had, like, scribbles and stuff, and then on, like, the newspapers and stuff, they just had scribbles, which I really, really liked. But I guess we're talking about parts we didn't like. So there's nothing, like, specific that stands out that I didn't like. I mean, I did watch this movie, like, a few weeks ago, so it's not fresh in my brain, but there was nothing jarring that I was like, I don't like that." It's overall just well made.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot to like. There's not a lot wrong with this movie. Most of it is well above average and really, really good. But I'm just, I mainly brought it up because yeah, the pop culture references was the one part of the movie that I did not like. Other than that, though, I pretty much everything else was great. All right. Well, I think before we close things out, we should probably, we didn't really talk about our thoughts on the four turtles. So, what did you guys think of the four turtles? I mean, I guess we kind of talked about their relationship. I don't know.
I think they did a good job at, like, distinguishing each of their, like, roles, but also, like, keeping it, like, really casual. Um, Cause like, Leonardo leads, right? According to the song.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, he's, like, the older sibling trying to make sure his younger siblings are, like, doing things right, and, like, he's just trying. And then, like, you have, uh Raphael, who is like, he's got some rage issues, like, but it's not towards his brothers or anything. He's just kind of a, like, rage type of person,
Well,
whereas like
he's
it's
always been a hothead.
yeah, whereas like it's not targeted towards like his siblings or anything, which I think maybe in some adaptations before that may have been the case, based on just existing on the internet and like seeing things. So the fact that he's just kind of, you know, that type of person was interesting. And then like I know for the 2018 Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they make Donnie like very techy, like he's got tech goggles and stuff. And I like how they like switch that around a bit where like he's still like that like techy, but it's more like, "Oh, I'm gonna, like, play on my phone, I have headphones," type thing, and not, like, over, like,
They make him a weeaboo, really into
yeah,
anime.
yeah, I guess so. But he's, like, still got, like, that tech stuff, but it's not as extreme as, like, having a microscope on his utility belt or anything. And then Mikey is still, like, the party dude, he's still, like, more of that, like, chill type of character who's like, "Yeah, I like skateboarding," and he, like, I think probably is good friends with Mongo Gecko, so I think they did a good job at distinguishing them and making them different enough where they didn't feel like copy and pasted characters.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did pretty good at still having the different personality tropes that all four turtles have, but not like to the point where it's super like stereotypical. We're like, because like I said, when the character design for Donatello was first revealed, I was thinking, oh man, like what they like he looks like a stereotypical nerd, but like they did a good job of making him not so much. I mean, he's still very nerdy and very techy, but like it's not to the point where it's like a ridiculous stereotype. And I like what they did with Raphael, like he's still the hothead and like, he's always willing to like start like get into and start fights and whatnot, but it's not like he's, angry and mad at his brothers all the time. He still loves hanging out with his brothers, but on occasion he has a couple rage issues. I love that one part. I can't remember if it's Leonardo or Donatello, but they're like, dude, you need therapy or something like that. Like that was pretty good. And then, obviously Michelangelo loves, still like the fun loving party guy turtle. And like, yeah, like, you brought up how Leonardo, one thing I didn't really think about was, yeah, he's the leader and he is the one like trying to look out for his brothers. Like he rats them out at the beginning of the movie, like when confronted by Splinter. He's like,
Don't
"Oh,
use
well."
that term that way. It's 2023.
Yeah, that's true. My bad. I'm sorry, Splinter. Yeah. But yeah, he even like tells on his brothers, it's because he's just trying to look out for them. And so that was something I didn't really think about, that they did do very well in the movie for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think just because you guys covered a lot of things that I agree with already, but I think they did a really good job of capturing the sort of dynamics. I mean, I never had brothers, so I mean, I can't really say with certainty this would be like, but it felt authentic of like teenage brothers, like this is how they would act, and I think they did a good job of keeping like the classic characterization of each character and like keeping their personalities in check, but still kind of doing like slightly new things or like a nice fresh take on it with them being like actual teenagers and stuff. So I like them. I think they did a really great job at embodying the characters, and I'm excited to see or hear, I guess, them grow up in the roles and see what they do with them over time.
Yeah, that would be really cool because I know, outside of the podcast we've discussed like the possibility of, are we gonna grow up with these characters, kind of like how we grew up with Harry Potter. So like, are we gonna grow up with the people voicing the turtles? Like maybe 10 years from now we're gonna have like more adult turtles when, because the kids will be, or the kids voicing them now are going to be a lot older. So that's a really cool idea, and I hope that's kind of the direction that they go in. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the sequel is going to bring. Now, back when we were talking about things that we maybe didn't like, I I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of the turtles going to high school. I think it's stupid. It's just like I don't like that idea. I know that it's a movie for kids and like they're gonna have like different ideas, but I just don't like the ideas of the turtles going to school. But I don't know. We'll have to see what they do for the sequel. It'll be interesting to see what ideas that they come up with for the sequel. Now, I personally think that because they talk about TCRI now. I think they explain in the movie, and it's the case in the comics as well, that TCRI are the ones responsible for mutating the turtles. They're the ones that made the ooze that mutated the turtles. So
Ooze.
ooze, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, because they kind of hint at the end that they're going to look more into TCRI, and it'll be interesting to see what they do for the sequel, because obviously, I mean, we hinted at it earlier. For I think is it the mid credit scene or the after credit scene? I don't remember, but they tease Shredder. So like Shredder, who's like the main bad for the Turtles. The Shredder is the Joker to the Turtles Batman. Like you got to have Shredder at one point. But I think it would have been, so obviously he's going to be in the sequel, but I think it would have been interesting to, I don't know, maybe save Shredder for the third movie and maybe have the second movie be all about like exploring TCRI and like, is Baxter Stockman dead? Do we for sure know that he's dead? Who knows? Like maybe you could possibly have him be the main antagonist for the sequel, and then like you bring Shredder in for the third movie. But obviously, they plan on bringing Shredder in for the second movie, which I'm okay with. Like, I'm excited to see Shredder, and it'll be really interesting to see what direction they take Shredder in, because like the '80s show, Shredder was kind of like a silly villain. Like one of my one of my favorite moments from the '80s show is like they're like he's sitting down with Bebop and Rocksteady and they're like eating Chinese food, and then Shredder's like, "Oh, I'm one of the world's most terrifying villains, and I'm reduced to eating Chinese takeout." Like, so it'll be interesting to see, like, are they gonna have him be more of like kind of like a silly villain, like in the aspect of the '80s show, or are they gonna have him be like kind of a more serious villain, like he is in the 2003 show in the original comic run? So I'm really excited to see what they do for the sequel.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, like, you said TCRI?
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, a bit more about them, and if they do the TV show that leads into the second movie, maybe they'll spend that, like, exploration time in that instead of, like, doing, like, 3 movies.
yeah, that's true. We'll have to see what they do for the animated show. My only worry for the TV show is the animation might not look as nice as the movie, because I'm assuming it's going to have a smaller budget. But I don't know. We'll see. They'll probably be able to make it work.
I'm sure they're gonna try whatever they can to keep TMNT relevant, because they just keep that's what they're doing. They just keep taking it and rebooting it and selling more toys and getting more people to watch, which is good because we got this fantastic movie
Yeah.
because it's really good.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start wrapping things up here. Before we
Oh,
enter, oh, what's up?
I wanted to ask,
Sure.
who is your favorite turtle?
Yes, I was gonna ask this to you guys. Why don't you guys go first? What are your guys' favorite turtles?
I guess I'll go first. I I like I like all of them. They're all very cool, but Donnie is probably the coolest one because he's like the nerd one and the science one.
He
And
does
like
do
he
machines.
yeah, he does have the purple face mask headband thingy. So, it is my favorite color. So there's a bias there.
Okay, funny story real quick about Donnie's headband being purple. So I'm colorblind. I'm like red green colorblind. I mix up like reds, browns, yellows, greens, and especially blues and purples. So for the longest time, I thought Leonardo was the one with the purple headband and Donatello was the one with the blue headband. And it wasn't until the 2012 TV show that I found out that no, Leonardo's the one with the blue headband and Donatello's the one with the purple headband, because in the lyrics for the 2012 theme song, at one point it goes Leonardo, the leader in blue, and I was like, wait, leader in blue, he's the one with the blue headband? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess the Ninja Turtle colors are not colorblind accessible.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah. Good thing they have their initials on their utility belts.
Yes, that is another good way to tell them apart, other than, their different weapons. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
Udi, who's your favorite turtle?
I would say traditionally. I mean, I would. This might be the lame answer. I don't know. I would say probably Leo, but I'm also a big fan of Donnie usually.
There's
Like I
nothing lame about saying Leonardo is your favorite.
Okay. I don't know. I just like I know like I like Captain America, and I know like people are like, "Oh, he's so lame. He's like the Boy Scout." Blah, blah. But I don't know. I always liked Leo. Like as a kid, I thought Raph was cool, but I don't know. I think it's because I was a kid and whatever. But like the whole I'm the angry sibling and I'm always angry and throwing stuff or being overly aggressive angle doesn't really I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me as much as like Leo or Donnie, who usually have a bit more to them. Not to um throw too much shade at Raph, but yeah.
Excellent. All right. Is it Leonardo or Donatello then?
I would say Leo. Yeah, Leo.
Nice. All right. So mine is definitely, I'm going to have to go with Michelangelo. I've always gravitated towards more comedic characters when it comes to, shows and movies. Like, for example, like Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender, my favorite character from that show. Cisco from The Flash, another one of my favorite characters. Like, and Michelangelo's no exception. Like, he's the party dude, he's the comic relief. I always gravitate towards those characters. So I've always been like a Michelangelo fan. Although at one point I think I did consider Leonardo as well to be my favorite, but since then I've shifted over to Michelangelo. So let's move on to ratings. What would you guys rate TMNT Mutant Mayhem? We'll start with you, Udi.
All right, yeah. So I would give TMNT Mutant Mayhem a solid 4 out of 5. I thought the animation was really well done. I thought the voice performances were especially well done. I'm intrigued to see where this new direction of the franchise will go, and I'm excited to see the new interpretations of characters like Shredder and other upcoming characters and villains, what they'll be like in this iteration of the universe. And yeah, I would say a solid 4 out of 5.
Excellent. All right. What about you, Miranda? What would you rate TMNT Mutant Mayhem?
Sorry about the quality of my mic. My internet cut out, so I had to switch to my phone. But I would give this movie a 4.5 out of 5 because it is great and I like it. And that was the number that popped into my head when I exited the theater. So that's what it gets. Because it's just fun and it's well made and the animation is really, really cool. So it's just really great.
All right. I am also going to give TMNT Mutant Mayhem a 4 out of 5 as well. I loved this movie. Animation is great once again. Great, good writing, great characters. I love the relationship that the turtles had, and I can't wait to see more. All right, so the official Atomic Lizards rating is 4.16 repeating. So averaging that out would be a 4 out of 5. Thank you for joining us today and listening to our conversation about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. If you need more Atomic Lizards in your life, we do have a backlog of episodes for you to catch up on. You can find us on YouTube, Podbean, and Spotify. You can also find us on Instagram at Atomic Lizards Pod and on Letterboxd at atomic_lizards. Have a good night, everyone.